Welcome back to another week of Bible study as we are continuing on through the Enneagram personality discussion, and also looking at 36 different Bible characters and what their personality types are. All of this brought to you courtesy of the good people of Christ's Table. We'd love to tell you more about Christ's Table. Visit www.christtable.today. When you get there, be sure to sign up for our email list. And we'd love to encourage you to donate to this ministry if you find it helpful to you. We are only here because of the generosity of those who partner with Christ's Table. And in return, in our gratefulness for that, we send you every couple of months a box that is packed full of spiritual formation resources. I've got one of those boxes that are coming out in just a couple of weeks. The only way that you can get one is by being a donor here, because we send them for free as a thanks to those who are gracious enough to partner with us financially in the ministry. So you can do that over at www.christtable.today. One other thing that I want to make sure you're aware of are all of the resources that are available for this study. Go to christtable.today/BU. Right there, you're going to find a link to the book on Amazon that's the foundation of this study, Ian Crone's The Road Back to You. You're also going to find a PDF of all of the 36 Bible readings that we are walking through as a part of this study. And you can take the Enneagram personality test on your own. There's a couple of tests that are linked there at that URL, and one of them is absolutely free so that you can find out more about how God designed you as an individual. I also want to invite you on Wednesday night to our book study, our conversation about the Enneagram. This week we'll be talking about Type 6, the Loyalist. You can read that chapter 10 in the book and come and join us for that conversation, or just come and join us. Even if you haven't read the chapter, we still would love to have you, and there will be more than enough to discuss and think about and listen to in that conversation. Go.christtable.today/discuss, 8 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday night. We'll be there and would love to have you along with us for the journey. Well, let's dig in. When we come to the Type 6 Loyalist, we find a very, very unique, important, and interesting individual personality type. And today we're going to look at the Apostle Peter, who is quite clearly, in my estimation, a Type 6 Loyalist. Now, whenever we talk about this idea of Enneagram, I always like to go back and review just a little bit what we're talking about. What we're talking about here is a system, a map for looking at 9 different personalities. Now, we've walked through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, and 9, and now we are at 6. And one of the other things that I like to say about this is you are more than your personality, and these personality types are not written in stone from the Bible. They are simply a tool for you to use to maybe help you on your journey in growth and maturity, and opening up some ideas and ways for you to become more healthy, or to recognize maybe if you are a little bit unhealthy. Excuse me. So whenever we come to the Type 6 personality, this is essentially what we're talking about. A person whose basic desire is to be secure and to connect with others for the common good. And so a person with this personality type is essentially going to do and say everything in life in a way that revolves around keeping themselves secure or bringing them to a place of greater security. Not so much a risk-taking personality type. Their biggest fear is obviously being insecure or being without guidance, which means that they would have to take a risk. The fear here is the deadly sin. It's the thing that can cripple them, and can also be the thing that can cause them to run off the rails into a place of unhealth. So how do you know whether or not you are a 6? Maybe you're thinking, I'm a loyal person. Am I a 6? Well, do these words describe you, or do other people often use these words to describe you? Responsible, loyal, suspicious, trustworthy, committed, anxious, a team player, a planner, someone who's self-doubting, doubts themselves, or someone who is paranoid. If any of those words describe you or other people use those words to describe you, then you may well be a 6. Now, when we come to our text today, we're going to look at a very fun and kind of classic passage for Peter. Peter is one of the main individuals in the New Testament, and a lot of the story revolves around him. And one of the things that we recognize about Peter is that he, in moments, seems to be both unhealthy and also in other moments seems to be healthy. So why don't we just go ahead and look at the passage for today. Sorry about the coughing. Just getting over a cold, and in the mountains takes longer than it should, right? On the way, so this is kind of a classic line in scripture, on the way, because Jesus did most of his teaching on the way. It wasn't as though he just went to synagogue on Friday evenings or church on Sunday mornings and set people down for an hour and taught. No, he did life with them, and as they were making their way from one place to another, Jesus would teach them, would have conversations with them on the road. So on the way, Jesus tells them, this would have been very disconcerting, tonight, all of you will desert me. For the scripture says that God will strike the shepherd and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I've been raised from the dead, I will go ahead of you to Galilee and meet you there. This to the disciples, and especially to Peter, who's a loyalist, should have been very helpful in reducing the amount of fear and increasing the amount of peace, even though Jesus was telling them that they were about to encounter a very difficult situation where everybody was going to be scattered. Jesus was still giving them the plan for a type 6, for a person who's a loyalist, who stresses over insecurity or not having guidance. This guidance here that Jesus has given them is extremely important. One of the things that can happen with all of us, but especially with type 6s, is that we can have a unhealthy relationship with authority because there is a foundation of fear and a high desire for security that can cause us to have a very messy, chaotic, and like I said, unhealthy relationship with people who are in authority. As you know, whether you've ever been in a workplace with a boss who's been a good boss or a bad boss, or been in a class with somebody who's a good teacher or a bad teacher, been in a relationship with somebody, friendship, who kind of had an authoritative personality. It can be good, it can be bad. Especially for 6s, though, a lot of their security and strength and healthiness comes with whether or not they're in a good place in a relationship with authority. And so sometimes the fear that is within a 6 can cause them to have severe trust issues with people who are in authority over them, and can cause them to act and react in ways that are abnormal and unhealthy and really counterproductive and wrong. They can assess the person or the situation incorrectly. The other thing that can happen is sometimes they can throw their security and their allegiance to a leader who may not be a great leader, who is maybe making the wrong decisions, but who makes them feel secure. And so all of us should always ensure that we are following leaders who are wise and good and healthy for us, and should maybe do a gut check and ensure that we aren't following the wrong leaders or avoiding the right leaders. Peter, obviously, I think we could say with Jesus, was following a good leader. So Peter hears that they're going to be scattered, and being the loyal guy that he is to somebody whom he trusts and whom brings him security and whom gives him guidance. Jesus did all of those things. Says, even if everybody else deserts you, even if everybody else deserts you, Jesus, I will never desert you. I love that because Peter here has made a decision to trust. This is something that can be so difficult, not just for sixes who have been burnt by authority, but this can be something that is very, very difficult for all of us, making a decision to trust somebody else, even when we don't understand, even when we disagree. Sometimes the person whom we have to decide to trust is ourselves. Sometimes the person whom we have to decide to trust is God, is Jesus. And sometimes it's somebody else. But all of us can stop, and maybe all of us in moments should stop and do a gut check and say, not only am I trustworthy, but am I being trusting? You know, there's this old saying that trust is earned, not given. I understand what that means and why it's there, and the foundation of it, I think is not wrong. It encourages us to work to earn people's trust, not expect it. But the truth of the matter is that whenever we're giving trust has to first be given before it can be earned. Before someone can earn your trust, you have to trust them enough to let them try. So whenever we're thinking about somebody else and whether or not to trust them, it's going to take us being willing and having the capacity to trust before we can ever allow somebody to really earn that trust. Love may be easier to understand it in that vein. Love has to be given before it can be earned, right? You have to allow someone the ability to love you, and you have to allow yourself the capacity to love them before it can be earned. You have to make a decision to trust, and Peter has made a decision to trust Jesus. But here he's in a pickle because he doesn't understand what's going on and doesn't agree, and it pushes against his loyalist ideas that he's going to reject Jesus because, no, I trust you, Jesus. I've made that decision. Jesus says, Peter, I tell you the truth. This very night before the rooster crows, you will deny 3 times that you even know me. And Peter insists, the perennial loyalist, no. Even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you. And all of the other disciples, seeing Peter's statement, now they vow the same. Here's the deal. Never assume that you can't make the wrong decision. Peter thought that everything that was important was determined on whether or not he was trustworthy and whether or not other people were trustworthy. His radar for assessing whether or not he would do something was based on his level of loyalty. He thought that he was strong enough, secure enough, that he would not stumble. He was reacting against his own fear here. He wants to be secure as a 6. He wants to have guidance, and Jesus provides all of that, and he had made a decision to trust, and he was never he was never going to do the wrong thing because of that. And because he believed that he could never act in an untrustworthy way towards Jesus, he ends up actually acting and making untrustworthy decisions, just as Jesus said that he would. And so I think as we come to the end of our study today, it's important for all of us to look at the reflection in the mirror and do a gut check on our relationship with authority figures or lack thereof. Is it healthy? Are they healthy? And then do a gut check about ourselves. Are we trustworthy? Peter thought that he was, but the rest of the story doesn't necessarily seem to indicate that. My hope and my prayer for you is that you won't only just be loyal in the easy times, but when things get difficult, when you don't have guidance, when you don't feel secure, whenever life seems to be crumbling around you, you will still be able to trust in truth. In this moment, Peter fails that test. Whenever the security is taken away from him, he crumbles in his faith and in his belief and who he trusts. May that not be you. Until tomorrow, happy reading.